Real Plumber reacts to off-the-grid plumbing systems. This is one thing right here. I'm going to tell you, I don't like this at all. That can kill people. Now, I've got some great ideas for living off the grid when it comes to water, sewer, things like that. But first of all, we're going to jump in and look and see what some other people have done. Then I'm going to tell you about 3 ideas that I have that I think are just really phenomenal. And it's very important if you want to have safe drinking water. So let's jump in here and see what this first person does.
It's that tiny little system right there is going to power the entire house with water. One step closer to living comfortable.
Okay, so number one right there off the bat, I don't like the fact that he's running it off a battery. I would rather have a PV panel, getting the solar energy, electricity, running it off it. I'm not saying you can't use a battery, but it may be nice to have a battery backup for like a long period of super cloudy days.
Y'all, today the mission is to get running water to the studio so we can actually take some showers, go potty, and then even brush our teeth and spit some water down into the sink. Guys, we need running water for the first time out here other than the camper. So we got to figure this out.
Okay, here we go. Let's skip ahead to the water. It's a good sized tank.
Now it's time to get back on the water, so I ended up using about 500 feet of garden hose to fill up the big 550-gallon tank that we have.
So just over 500 gallons.
Started at 335, ended at 435, about 1/3 full. It ended up taking about 3 hours total to fill up the tank. This is the pump we got when we bought the water tanks. Not really sure how well it'd work or if it'd work at all, but we got to try it out. We have this on-demand water heater. It's meant for camping, but we're gonna rig it up as our off-grid water heater. I think we can get this to work.
Okay, probably not the right tool to be putting that on. An adjustable wrench, maybe the right size wrench. Not vice grips. That doesn't sound good. God, that actually, okay, that sounds better. The other one sounded horrible. Oh, you're putting air in it again. Sounds a little better.
All right, guys, so for whatever reason, this is not staying pressurized. I'm having issues with it. I found out you can use an air compressor to get the tank full to get the pressure up, but every time I do it, it'll get the pressure up, and as the water goes out, it just goes down. I've messed with this switch in here, and I just can't figure it out. I don't know if it's a faulty switch or a faulty air compressor or whatever's going on. It's just a huge pain in the butt, but I can't get it to work.
I did have, my sister had a house that had a well, had a water storage tank, a complete filtration system, everything. And I ended up having to change the switch out on her pump like this to keep pressure. You couldn't adjust it. You couldn't change anything, and it didn't work right. So we ended up getting her a brand new one. But it worked really, really.
All right, guys, I'm getting extremely desperate just to get water in there for now until we can get a real pump. So I'm gonna look in the shop and see if we can't figure something out. Woo. Gotta be something in here. I wonder if this will work.
I'm not going to say it won't work. That's a little bitty pump to be pumping water for an entire house, so.
So I don't know if this is the problem or not, but I think I put it on wrong. I think the water needs to go the opposite direction. So
there's normally flow arrows on it, guys. So if you ever install a pump like this, just check it and make sure.
It's all trial and error.
And it is.
Oh, it broke. No. Dang it. Shh. Well, I just screwed my chances. This nipple part, I accidentally just broke off this side.
Drill it and tap
something. Alright guys, I have tried and tried and tried. I have got to figure this out. So I'm gonna try something. I went to Tractor Supply, and after doing the pump, I figured let's just really try to do it full blown solar and see what happens. Alright, so I went and got a sprayer pump for tractors to spray chemicals. I got some extra wire, I got a solar panel, I got a 12-volt battery. This is the old pump that I broke. So let's see if we can't figure this out. If so, it'll be 100% solar. We won't even have to have the generator running, battery banks, nothing. It'll all be contained, and we'll always be able to take a shower and have hot water because we have a propane tank. Oh, I hope this works. End up getting the Pro Series. Perfect, perfect. Okay, this actually has arrows, so you know which way it's going.
Kind of like you read my mind. Putting the Teflon tape on backwards. Putting the Teflon tape on backwards again. Okay, and it shut off there, which is a good thing. You want to make sure it shuts off when it gets up to enough pressure.
I almost feel stupid for trying to just overdo it. Guys, that entire system right there is going to have water for the entire studio. Plus, we're going to run a hose over, and it's going to hook into the camper, and then we'll have a spigot outside. That little pump will do all of it. And I just totally wasn't thinking. I was just like, all right, we have this pump, we could do this, we could try this, all this stuff. No, guys, sometimes you got to remember to.
Now, I don't know how long he's going to go on here, but I got to tell you, that's a little bitty pump to be running water to an entire shop and a trailer too. Those little pumps are made to run for a little while, but not run a super duper long time like that. Let's see what the next one does. How our off-grid water system works.
First thing you're going to need is a water source. Next, you're going to need a water pump and a distribution system. An accumulator tank is helpful. Hot water heater, a manifold system, and finally your endpoint. Now we're going to talk about all these parts in detail and show you how they work. The first thing we're going to talk about is the water collection, the water source. What we've set up here, we've had these for a couple years now, is two 1,500-gallon tanks, and they collect water from off of these roofs.
Now we're talking. I love the rainwater harvesting.
And it collects in these things. This is all uphill compared to where it's going downhill, slightly downhill to the houses. And so the lines come out of the tank, and then they go into the ground. And yes, these lines do freeze. We're technically in the south. And so there are a few days during the winter where temperatures get down far enough where we have to drain the lines. But it's usually not more than for a couple of days and, a few times a year, a few times per winter. The tanks are painted black. They come that way, and that helps to keep them above temperature so they don't freeze too often or freeze too hard. I think maybe during that one winter we had where like all of Texas even froze to death, it like froze solid maybe at that point, but they don't usually freeze solid. And so if we have a couple days of temperatures where it's just getting into that warning area of like 27, 25 degrees, we'll go ahead and drain the lines and everything's good for a few days. And then we open them back up and everything's fine again. This is a pump that we put in, and basically the water comes downhill. Okay, the tanks are all uphill from here slightly. And it comes in here. I have different shutoff valves. I have different spin down.
I like the open-door system there. Is that open or is that PVC?
Filter.
Maybe it's not PVC.
Spin down filter filters it, and then it goes into the pump. This is to keep any debris that might harm the pump out of the pump. Okay, your pump can be hurt by debris if debris gets in the water, large debris, and so that filters that. And then after the pump, we have a 250 mesh spin down filter, and then after that, a 500 mesh spin down filter. And these can easily be drained by turning the valve here, or just, basically draining the system.
It's got it set up pretty good there.
And then scrubbing out the filter. And you can buy
scrubbing it out or changing it.
But so far we just had to, scrub these out, and that works fine. Anyway, and then we have a couple other valves here that if I want to hook up hoses or different other items to this system, I can. If you turn the valve, it turns on. So this is a pretty powerful pump, and you'll run a hose no problem, either one of these two spigots. And so it's plugged in here, and I had this plugged into our solar system, the AC line that runs down to the house.
Love that.
Other than that, that's about it for that. Let's move on to the accumulator tank. So those of you who live in an RV will notice and understand that when you have a pump, a water pump, sometimes it puts out water in like a spurt, in this constant spurting motion, and it's really annoying. Okay, and it sounds loud, and it's a mess. People don't like it.
Sometimes
so
it can sound like a jackhammer.
An accumulator tank. Now they make big ones, they make small ones. This is a pretty small one, but it does the job fine. We don't experience any of that pumping sensation that comes through our faucets when we have something like this installed. It's
pulsating really is what it's like.
It
It's kind
comes
of crazy.
pre-pressurized from the factory. It has a way where you can check the pressure with this little gauge here, like a tire gauge. And so you just hook up a tire gauge to see what the pressure is. You want to keep it around 30 psi. And if it's not that, you can take a bicycle pump and just kind of top it off a little bit. And then hook it up, and it works right out of the box. No problem. Now, this is the hot water heater. I was inspired to do this system setup from Deep South
Y'all know I
Homestead.
love Renee, so this is fantastic.
They had bought an EcoTemp for their off-grid cabin. And I looked at the reviews online, and I really didn't like the reviews of the EcoTemp. Eesh. So I went ahead and got the Renee, which had much better reviews. And so far it seems pretty easy. It was kind of just a plug-and-play system. And that makes it sound easy, but it's really not. You have to hook up gas lines. You have to hook up the water lines. And I know I'm going to get lots of comments. Technically, this is not to code, okay? You're not supposed to cross lines, and I definitely crossed lines. And this is just a what do you call that?
Temperature and pressure relief valve.
When it gets too much pressure and it blows, I forget what that's called, but it's a valve that basically, if too much pressure accumulates in the system, this can blow and just blow out that way. So it's not really a line that's active. It's only active if something bad happened. But I have the in for the cold water here. I have the out for the hot water here, and it goes up and into the house. And this one is the cold that also goes up into the house. So it comes out of the accumulator tank, goes up into the house for the cold, and then over to the water tank here, and then out for the hot. And then from the hot and from the cold, these two lines go into the manifold system. Okay, this is a pretty easy setup. Yes, it's not to code. I'm not a gas expert. I consulted a gas expert before I hooked it all up, and he told me what to do. He told me what I needed, and that everything would be fine. And so everything seems to run
pretty
fine.
Close to code,
No
except
complaints.
for maybe the galvanized
It's probably
90
not
there.
the code the way it would be in the city if you lived in a place in a municipality where they had all kinds of ordinances and zoning and regulations and stuff like that. But
Okay, guys, the only thing that I see missing is there should be a valve here and there should be a valve here. He's got these valves here to flush this system, but without those valves right here, you can't isolate it from the house. Now, there may be valves up there right before it goes into the manifold system. He can shut it there and different things, but he's not going to be able to purge those lines properly, because once that chemical gets down in here from cleaning the tankless, you're going to have to flush that out really, really good. And if you don't flush the tankless on a regular basis, it's going to build up on the inside of your heat exchanger there, and it's going to quit making hot water the way you want it done.
Now, most homes, when you have it hot and cold coming in, they usually come in and then are distributed by a trunk line. And some of you may be familiar with that. Others,
This is a manifold system.
So we decided to go with a manifold system. This is a manifold that's created by a company called Viega, and they make all different sizes.
Viega,
This is one of the
very
smaller
nice
sizes
system.
they make.
It's a
We
great
don't have
product.
a whole lot of need. We have some extra room for house.
Cool.
And finally, your end point. So we have hot and cold running water, cold and hot running water. So it works great. We love it. Easy, simple, and who would have thought that the homestead would have hot and cold running water?
I would hope that they have hot and cold running water.
On the homestead. So it's amazing. We got it. We love it.
Fantastic job. All right, let's look at this last one. Another off-the-grid water system tour.
All right, Jill, give her the inspection.
See what's going on in here.
Ooh, it's not frozen, not one little tiny bit. It looks like there's about 600 to 800 gallons and there's no ice in the water tank.
This is a
was a good thing.
2,500 gallon tank. We dug a giant hole and buried it 3 feet deep. The water actually comes out of the bottom of the tank and runs down alongside of the house here and then turns and goes underneath the footer into the crawl space. You're probably wondering how we get the water in the tank. Let me show you.
Sarah and I are going to make a run to get water. We don't have a well right now. Hopefully that will be remedied in the future, but if you have ever put in a well, you know that they're not cheap. So we have been saving our pennies for a while. So what we do right now is we go into town and we fill up our water and then haul it back home and transfer it into this big tank.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. But what I'll tell you is I would, instead of digging a well, I'd be looking at a rainwater harvesting system.
We've got 2 hoses.
Yeah. That's a lot of work to go buy water, and then you're very conscious about how much water you're actually using.
Oh, it's starting. Oh, that's like one flush going down the. See that? It's air in the line still.
See the way he
Like that right
he said
there.
that? That's like one flush right there. He's already thinking about how much water he's wasting right here just trying to get the air out of the lines.
3 feet deep, and then it turns in right over here. Go down in the crawl space. I'll show you our pump, our pressure tank, and all of that we run on our off-grid solar system.
Our crawl space is in our laundry room right over here. This is our very sophisticated lid into our crawl space. That's how we get down here.
Hey, nothing wrong with that.
All right.
I've got in worse,
Show
I
you
promise.
The tank and all the good stuff down here.
This is our water pressure tank and this is the pump.
This is a 120 volt pump. This right here is the pressure switch for it, and it runs our house just like any regular on-grid house that runs on a well. We also have this little guy hanging right here. This is a thermometer. It has never actually gotten below freezing down here. So far, 2 winters and no freezing.
Yeah, it's actually
Good
pretty
deal.
comfortable down here right now.
This right here is the temperature outside, the temperature down in the crawl space,
I
the
love
temperature
that.
downstairs in the cabin, and upstairs in the cabin. So like I said, the water comes from underneath the stem wall and the footer. It comes up here in the crawl space, comes into the pump here, and then it comes out of the pump and goes up into the house. We also installed this valve right here so that when we leave in the winter time,
Drain
we
it
can
down.
go ahead and drain all of the water out of the house.
That was graceful.
A plumber put a 5-gallon
From
bucket
the
there.
pump, it comes up through the floor right here, and then it comes over to our manifold system here. We'll run all PEX piping in the cabin, cold and hot. Let's cruise over to Seth's room, and I'll actually show you the hot water heater.
Knock, knock, Seth. Hi. Hi, Seth. Hi. This is our on-demand water heater that it's actually in Seth's room right now, and it works fantastic. It runs.
Okay, here's the only thing I don't like about this guy. Okay, no, wait. Let me keep going.
Pain. We did have it in the bathroom when we thought we were going to have to constantly adjust the temperature, so we wanted it right next to the shower, but we got it set to where it's really comfortable. Only occasionally we'll have to yell at somebody to go adjust the water, but it works super, super fantastic. And we've never had a problem with it venting. We have a carbon monoxide sensor and it has never once gone off. And
Guys, that's still not good. They put that vent on there for a reason. It can be dangerous to people. So this is one thing right here. I'm going to tell you, I don't like this at all. That can kill people. So, and she says, look, it doesn't go off much. It doesn't run a lot. I get it, but you're still putting carbon monoxide in the air. And in a big room like that, it's just, guys, they put the vent on there for a reason and tell you to vent it to the outside. So I don't like this.
hi, guys.
All right, let's go check out the bathroom, the kitchen, and we'll show you how we use our water.
This is our bathroom, you guys.
All right, so we've seen the install, so I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. What I want to tell you is I love these systems. They work. Being off the grid, this is something I designed a system a long time ago. I want to build a house, probably out here at the outhouse, where I've got underground storage tanks and I do rainwater harvesting. I want to be able to build a roof that I can catch all the water off of. I studied rainwater harvesting. I've actually got one of the endorsements in Texas to where I can install rainwater harvesting. I can design it, install it, do all that. Here's the thing. Rainwater harvesting is going to be free water. You're not going to have to dig a well, but you also need to build a system that will hold enough that can last you at least about 100 days, because that's about how long we could go here without water. You need to figure out how many gallons of water each person uses a day, so you know how big to design your system for, and then add a little extra. Get a little fluff there. That way you're covered and you're not running out of water. The other thing is the filtration. And I didn't see a lot of it here except for the one. Even if I'm going to buy water, you never know what kind of bugs, critters, or anything like that are going to get down in there. A filtration system to me is huge. And then the last one is the treatment. I worked out at Texas Instruments, so I understand UV water filtration. If I designed my own system, it would be rainwater harvesting with an amazing filtration system and an amazing purification system. So these are different things that I would do if I were building a house. Now, if you're a homeowner or you're a plumber and you do either rainwater harvesting or anything like that where you're off the grid, I'd love to know what type system you have. So leave me a comment and let me know. And if you liked this video, I definitely think you're going to like that one.